Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. And as you all know, every once in a while we get to be joined by the man himself, Mr. Reed Carringer. And today is that day. And so, Reed, we thank you so much for joining us.
Great to see you guys, as always.
So this is going to be a fun episode because Reed has been a lifelong Tennessee fan. He didn't really have a choice in that, and he was born into it. And so he has grown up traveling literally all over the Southeast watching Tennessee athletics. And tonight we get to hear his take on this season's baseball team. And so, Reed, our very first question for you, specifically about Monday night, this past Monday night, Game 3 deciding, personally, I was thrilled that it went Game 3 because all of America deserved a Game 3 in the College World Series Championship Series. It was just obviously the two best teams. Fantastic baseball game. Reed, what were your thoughts specifically on Game 3? And then if you could look back over this season as a whole, what were your thoughts about this season in general and how the Tennessee performed in the whole College World Series? But if you don't mind starting with Game 3, that'd be awesome.
Well, yeah, we're really glad there was a Game 3, especially after losing Game 1, right? But I did think it was kind of the way it shaped up. It was going to be a shame if we didn't see Xander Seacrest pitch a game again at Tennessee this year. So it's kind of weird for a Tennessee fan to say I was kind of hoping we'd go 3 games the whole time. But I was because I wanted to see Xander pitch again. And he did not let us down on Monday night again. I think you're talking about some of the most clutch performances from him to end this season in Tennessee history in any sport. Was absolutely dominant when Tennessee needed him to be for 5, 6, 7 straight starts. And you're talking about, this is not somebody like a Jalen Hyatt or somebody in football that has some unreal athleticism, or even Christian Moore or Chris Burke or Todd Helton or some of these guys we're going to talk about later today. But he just battled, savvy veteran. That was my biggest takeaway, is I wanted to see Xander pitch again. We got to see him pitch again, and he did not let us down. So, yeah, happy to see Game 3. Never going to be easy, right, to win a championship. The last one that we saw was 1998, obviously, for men's sports, for the Vols football team. And that was not easy for those of you who may have selective memory. Took some breaks to beat Syracuse to open the year.
That's exactly what I was thinking, yeah.
That one gets forgotten a lot. Took some breaks to beat Florida at home. Took some breaks to beat Arkansas. A miracle to beat Arkansas, to be honest.
Yep.
So I think that's another thing, is you see that with championship teams. It's never going to be easy. There's always going to be a lot of adversity that you're going to have to overcome. You're going to have to get some bounces to go your way. Tennessee, the stars aligned finally for Tennessee after it felt like years of the stars aligning against us, right? All the bad luck we could possibly have for years and years and years. And finally it paid off. So that game specifically, guys, I did not feel great about it. Up 3-1 with Oschenbeck in to pitch, because he was dominant in Game 1 and we were not even touching him. And this is where I think Tennessee kind of won the series, was Tennessee's depth in their lineup over a 3-game series. He threw, I think, 46 pitches in Game 1, which is more than he normally throws. They forced him to get up and start throwing in Game 2, which I think was big in Game 3 when he was clearly not himself. Tennessee made hard contact in that first inning. Tears struck out, looked hopeless, and then Tennessee made hard contact. It didn't really cause any damage, but made hard contact. And that next inning, the 7th, was when they put up a 3-spot, the Dreiling homer and the miracle slide by Inslee. And they touched him up. And I didn't have that on my bingo card. I didn't think they're going to be able to do that. And that's where I really think their depth, their lineup made a big difference in the series and what ultimately proved to be the winner in the series for him. So Xander was brilliant. Number one, depth of Tennessee's lineup. Number two, really, I think, won that game for him and a title.
We kind of mentioned what you just said Thursday night. We were talking about Oschenbeck and how nobody hit him all year long. Nobody did.
No.
And, do you think maybe the fact that Tennessee did over the course of those 3 games, they did see him 2 of the 3 games, so they saw him, I think Friday night was his longest outing of his career, or Saturday night. And then, he comes back Sunday or Monday. And could it be that because Tennessee saw him more than any other team all year, is that why they were the ones that got to him late at the end of that game Monday night? You think that's possible?
I think that was huge. I really do. I think I was nervous. I felt really good about where Tennessee was in Game 3, heading into Game 3. My one fear was him coming out of the bullpen, and I obviously wanted Tennessee to have a lead at that point because I felt like if they were down, big trouble for Tennessee. And so I was worried there with Tennessee's bullpen needing to be almost perfect there to end that game because I thought Tennessee wasn't going to score on him. I thought they were going to have to hold that 3-1 lead, and I was nervous about that. But that's it. They got to see him a bunch in Game 1. He got up and had to throw some for Game 2, even though he didn't get in the game. And then he wasn't as sharp. He wasn't hitting the corners. He wasn't working down as much. The guys were just seeing the ball. It looked like they were seeing the ball so much better than in Game 1. So I just think that was huge. That was huge. That's kind of the stuff in baseball that, as you all know, makes baseball fun. It's a game within a series, a game within a game. It's stuff that maybe the casual viewers of the sport don't notice. And you're noticing, we got to him, even though Tennessee lost that game in Game 1, forced him to pitch almost 50 pitches, and that could have won Game 3 for them.
Absolutely. Before Rustin gets his question, because he's got probably my favorite question of the night he's about to ask. Some of the comments that come through. Zach, what's up, buddy? It's good to have you, man. He said, what's up, Volbros and Reed, VFL. Eric said, what's up, Evan, Rustin, Volbros, and Reed? It's great to be a Tennessee Vols fan, 100%, especially this week. Let's see. Eric said, hey, this is great. Eric, this is fantastic advice, man. Eric said, everyone hit that like button for the Vol Bros. I think that's fantastic advice. Everybody should follow Eric's lead on that one. Zach said, yeah, hit the like button, help build the channel. We appreciate that too, Zach. Sean, what's up, buddy? Good to have you. He said, go Big Orange. Absolutely. Sanders, welcome, Sanders. Good to have you. She said, hey, guys, hope you're having a great evening. Let's see here. Reed, when you were talking about how long it had been since, the national championship and how difficult it was and everything, Zach said that was battered ball syndrome era, Reed.
It shaped us. It shaped us, Zach.
That's exactly right. Yes. Eric said Game 3 was nail biting, but I was confident Tennessee would win. Like I said, when they made it to Omaha, hey, there you go. Sean said, I always love finishing up a Sunday evening with the bro. Hey, we appreciate that, man. That's great. That's awesome. We appreciate that. Very kind. Mino Likey, welcome, Mino Likey. She said, evening Vol Bros, Reed in the chat. Let's see. Eric said, Coach Vitello needs to try and get Laviolette from the portal, or Laviolette. I don't know how to pronounce his last. Laviolette. Hey, what?
I think
that's
you're
like
right
that dude.
The first time, maybe.
Yeah, that dude from Evansville. His last name was like Figouresse, and he pronounced it like Fajorse or something.
It was
like,
not even close to how it was spelled.
Yeah.
I would never have guessed that in 1 million years, and I can't remember, but I was thinking, whoa, I did not see that one coming.
Yeah, when they announced it on TV, I was like, I don't think so. Let's see. Eric said need to get Laviolette and some of the other. How are you say Jace? They need to get Jace and some of the
Nico.
other A&M players. There you go. That's exactly
so.
it.
So Laviolette's going to be interesting because he and Tony actually had conversations shortly after the College World Series. Now that A&M has hired Michael Early, if you notice today, Texas signed 2 dudes out of the transfer portal. Neither were players from Texas A&M. Texas A&M's players don't really like Schloss, but they really like Michael Early. So I think the ones who entered the portal were only looking to go with them to Texas because of Michael Early. And now that he's staying, I don't think you see any of them transfer other than maybe Lavalette, because I'm not real sure. Like, I noticed something during the College World Series. When you watch him interact with his teammates, it's not great. Like, there's not a whole lot of relationship there. And I noticed it several times during not just our series, but the whole College World Series. He's alone a lot. He doesn't have a whole lot of interaction with his teammates. Even when he's like asking them for feedback on what they just saw from a pitcher, it's short and quick. Like, they're not having deep dialogue. And I'm not so sure he's a great fit on that roster, and he may be looking to leave regardless. But the rest of those A&M guys, they're going back to A&M. They're going to be playing for Michael Early.
Let's see. You know, like he said, it's great to be a Tennessee Vol Bros. Hey, I see what you did there. That's nice. Let's see. Sean said Hunter. That shows. Reed, when you were talking about Hunter Inslee slide, Sean said that slide needs to have a name.
That's still one of the most. I mean, that's one of those magical plays. I can think about the plays in my lifetime as a ball fan. I'm 37, and that's up there, way up there as far as signature plays. And I've watched a lot of baseball in my life, and I've never seen a slide like that.
Mm-mm.
And talk about important. It ended up being the game-winning slide.
It was the winner, right? It seemed like just insurance at the time, and ended up being the game winner. And it was magic. It looked like a magic trick. It really did. It looked like he transported, like portaled out of some pool underwater to another space on the stage, and he scored. I couldn't believe it. I could. That inning was something else. That the Dreiling pop up, it looked like pop up that ended up being a homer, and then the slide, unreal. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know, Sean, what you got. If you got a good nickname for it.
Yeah, everybody needs to name it in the chat. We'll put the names up.
The first time I watched the game, I didn't notice the bullpen on Dreiling's home run. And I watched the game back the other day and watched the bullpen faces as the ball was coming down. I don't think anybody in the bullpen thought it was going to make it in the bullpen, because they don't move. Like, it's coming right down on top of them, and they're just staring at it. Like, they're expecting it to be caught, and all of a sudden it's on them. It landed. There's a guy sitting in a chair, and it hits the chair right next to him, and he never flinches. He just watches it bounce.
I remember seeing that too, Rustin, and catching. There was one guy, like kind of the corner of the screen, that he went from just kind of watching the ball to a horrified look on his face really quick. And that was a screenshot that I need to find and hang in the office.
I mean, even Chris Burke during the game was like shocked that it had left the yard, and he said, you just get backspin on it and get up in the air, and sometimes stuff happens.
Yep.
Let's see. Carl said, never any doubt Monday night. I like it, Carl.
Sure.
That's what Aaron Combs was thinking.
Yeah. Even after he balked in a run or balked over a guy from second to third and then threw a wild pitch to allow him to score. Fun times there. Those fun times. And he just laughed about it. That's why I got it on the thumbnail for tonight.
Yeah, that one is obviously going to go down in infamy. But I was pretty nervous at that point, Carl, not going to lie. But I will say one thing that kind of stood out to me during that kind of period is if you looked at the dugout for Tennessee, Tony and those coaches, they did not look nervous. They looked giddy, like they had the game won. They looked like they knew they had the guy on the mound that they needed, that had the stuff they needed, they had the cushion, and they had some hitters they could attack, and they had a plan to do it. And that honestly gave me confidence more than anything, because you watch that whole time where as I'm a nervous wreck and I'm walking around, I was washing dishes and doing all kinds of stuff trying to get the nervous energy out. Tony and those guys, they're laughing, smiling, and they look like they're ready to storm the field because they know it's coming.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Zach said he felt like if they had put in Chris Stamos or AJ Causey, we might have lost. but we didn't put him in. We're the champions. We are the champions. Herb asked a really good question, so I'm going to pose this question to you guys. This is a really good one. Out of all the draft eligible players, who do you think comes back?
Pitchers included.
I think Hunter Inslee comes back personally.
That was the first name that came to mind. I was trying to look. I saw it. Maybe you posted. I can't remember recently. Kind of the top 100-ish prospects, and even just where Tennessee's lined up on the recent draft board. And Tennessee has so many guys that are going to go so high at that draft. That Inslee was a name that popped out. I'm thinking, and obviously somebody we'd love to have back, right? Especially after the College World Series performance there, where he gave up his body and then was able to
multiple
come back
times
and play and proved to be a huge difference maker. So, yeah, I think you probably nailed that first pick for me, Evan. Pitchers.
We know AJ Russell will be back. I mean, he has to.
Surgery, yeah.
I mean, he has to prove he can throw it. I mean, he will definitely be back. Hopefully, he's able to. Timeline on him is going to be interesting. I hope he's ready to go early, but I mean, it might be mid-season before he's ready.
Maybe get back by SEC play, something, conference play, something like that. Hard time to rejoin college baseball, but he's got the stuff to do it, or at least has had it. That is a great question. I just you took the first one, Inslee, for me. I haven't thought a ton about next year, to be honest with you. I've still been kind of basking in the glow of championship and parade and all of that before I've moved on to mourning, and then mourning the guys that we enjoyed watching, and then looking forward to who Tennessee gets next year. But, talking about the transfer portal guys, going back a question or two, I think if there's a staff in the country you can trust to figure that out, you're looking at them, right?
Totally agree.
Yep. I think Hunter Inslee definitely comes back because he's a guy that he's going to get a low draft grade. They're not going to give him a big signing bonus, so he can make more in NIL than he can in the minors. If you had asked me before yesterday, I would have said I felt like AJ Causey is in that same boat. And then yesterday, AJ Causey, Drew Beam, Christian Moore, and Kavaris Tears were all on MLB Network together, which is not a good thing. That means AJ Causey right now has an 8th round draft grade. 8th round money's not great. And, where you make your money there is signing bonus, which the fact that he was on MLB Network yesterday with those 3 guys tells me that some organization has already been talking signing bonus with him. And so he's gone. I think the biggest question mark really is Aaron Combs.
That's a good point.
Aaron Combs does not project as a major league reliever, so I think it's going to hurt his draft stock. Probably wouldn't hurt if he came back and maybe even got some starts, as well as being a reliever to prove he could be versatile. I think he could get drafted low enough that NIL would keep him back. So I think the big 2 to watch for Hunter Inslee and Aaron Combs. I would have said AJ Causey, but after yesterday, he's gone.
But obviously love to have any of those guys back.
Yeah.
But Combs coming in there a day after throwing almost 60 pitches and winning the thing just proved a lot. And no, the arm's there for him. Obviously, it's what a performance. What a performance. So getting him back would definitely help shore up that staff next year.
Yeah.
And the improvement that Aaron Combs made from, I say last season, I mean like the season before is the one we just had.
right.
The improvement he made from that season to now was a ton. I mean, just a ton. So maybe if he comes back, he can have another big leap. Maybe. We'll see. Carl said, hey, welcome, Carl. Good to have you, buddy. He said Dylan Drawling was awesome. The whole College World Series, right? But especially in Game 3. No doubt about it. And Mina Likey said, so some background here. Mina Likey, she said that she hopes Dylan Dreiling did the Niles Crane dance from Frasier. And and then it's because there's a GIF with Niles Crane dancing.
No,
And
I'm familiar.
As soon as he hit the home run, she posted that GIF and she said, Dreiling did it. So she was right. He did. Bill, welcome, Bill. Good to have you. He said, what up, Vol Nation? Great content, Volbro. Hey, we appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Carl said he absolutely loved Combs' smile after the balk. Showed me he had no stress. I'm glad he didn't have stress because I was in the same boat as Reed. I was walking all around the living room, the kitchen, the hallway. I was nervous.
I got some miles in that game at the house.
Let's see. Sanders said she knew we won the championship when we beat Florida State when the Blake Burke check swing that wasn't a check swing call, and then after all the errors we had. Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, and man, we made it tough on ourselves in the championship game too. And that Monday night game, 2 base running blunders by Dean Curley and Cal Stark. We had a double play to get out of an inning, and Dean Curley bobbles it, and we only get 1 out at second. We gave them opportunities, and thankfully we shut the door on each of those opportunities. 2 wild pitches in back-to-back innings, but thankfully we pulled it out.
It's such a. I love college baseball, guys. Like I love it. I think it's a great product. It's very entertaining. Tennessee had incredible ratings there for the College World Series Finals, but if you watch even the College World Series as a whole, the best teams in the country, it shows you how much of a leap it is to Major League Baseball.
Yes,
because all these high-level teams making just huge mistakes in huge situations over and over and over again. It wasn't just Tennessee. And all these plays that the pros make look like clockwork, routine double plays that are far from routine in college.
Great point.
A bunch of base running things like you mentioned. That's when we talk about who's here next year and stuff. The jump it's massive. It's massive from college to the majors, which is why you have such a long minor league trek usually for people. And if you watch the College World Series and you watched any Major League Baseball this year, you probably saw that.
That's a great point. Mina, like you said, she likes the Aaron Combs smile on the thumbnail. She said at the time it sent her into the fetal position when it happened on Monday night, but it's funny now. Yep. Mr. Jones might have the name for the Hunter Inslee slide. Hunter Houdini. There you go.
It's a good one.
Nice.
That's a good one.
Carl said Hunter Inslee baseball ninja. That one doesn't quite roll off the tongue like Hunter Houdini. But I like
it. It was very ninja-esque.
That's right. Hey, Carl, we appreciate that, man. He said, thank you, Volbros. Appreciate you, Reed. You're the man, Carl. You are the man. Thanks, we appreciate you, buddy. You are the man. Let's see. Some of the other comments came through. Like you said, did anyone else see the holdout orange peel on the A&M dugout wall edge at the end? Sad faces and an orange. I thought someone was in trouble. I didn't see that, actually. Let's see.
I didn't see there. I'll have to look back at that.
Mr. Jones said that catcher saw Hunter run through a wall. He didn't stand a chance, but he wasn't expecting the shake and bake.
The zoomed out view of that, guys, looks like we're headed for a massive freight train type collision. We saw one, was the Florida State game, right? At home where Tennessee was able to score, knock the ball loose. So I thought that's what we were headed toward. There was no path in my mind, in my wildest dreams, where I thought he was going to get untouched and make a perfect slide with like his whole arm over the plate too. It just Hunter Houdini. That was something else. I thought we were headed for. I thought, oh no, like his body can't take another massive collision. Like poor guy.
Yep.
Maybe that motivated his slide a little bit, knowing he was a little dinged up. I'd love somebody to ask that question. Was that in the back of your mind that wall didn't feel that good and maybe running into the catcher wasn't the right move?
Zach jokingly said Christian Moore and Blake Burke will be coming back next year. We wish. Yeah.
No.
We wish. Mr. Jones said Dylan Drelling, I hope. Yeah, we wish that one too, but that one ain't happening either.
Professional hitter, right?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Tony said there was no one I'd rather have a last inning pitching than Combs. We definitely didn't want to go any farther into the bullpen at that point, for sure. Let's see here.
I didn't love at the time kind of the late inning management of the pitching staff. I thought maybe they overthought it and overmanaged it a little bit. I would have skipped Loy, gone to Kirby, ridden Kirby as long as I could, and then go to Combs. That would have been my move. Is just trust your veterans, trust the guys who got you there, and also try to not burn Combs until you have to. Would have been my approach, but also I didn't win a national championship coaching.
And Kirby was throwing it well. Like he was throwing it.
I didn't like. I would have gone to him early. I have proof for those doubting. I have a text chain here. I was like, oh, do not like this. Do not like this move. Would have gone to Kirby, and then when they pulled Kirby, I said, don't like this because Combs had thrown so many pitches the day before. Kirby looked good. I know he'd appeared in every single game, but his pitch count was low for the weekend. He thrown like 15 heading into the game or something.
And he was dealing. I mean, they didn't have a clue what he was throwing.
No, So I didn't love that. I didn't, and it almost came back to bite us there. Kind of thought got a little too cute, maybe a little too analytical. But I got it. I get it. It worked out, and you still had your aces in the hole if you needed them there.
So Herb asked a question about Gavin Killen from Louisville. Gavin was Louisville's shortstop this year. He said, if by some chance we get Louisville shortstop, do you think he plays second base here? That's a great question. Personally, I don't think he would come to Tennessee because he knows that Dean Curley and Ariel Antigua are in front of him. I mean, dude's a player, no doubt. But does Dean Curley slide to third base and he comes in? Maybe so. But
make room for bats and figure it out.
He's an undersized shortstop, and he was drafted out of high school by the Red Sox. He was third team All ACC this year. He's an undersized shortstop. I know Antigua is too, but it would actually benefit him to come to Tennessee and play second to show that he can do both. He started almost every game this year at short for Louisville, and to be able to show that versatility and that he's good in both spots. And Dean Curley absolutely can slide to third. Honestly, I think that's what's going to happen regardless. I don't see a third baseman that's ready to step in and play, but I do see middle infielders that are going to need an opportunity. So even if Killen doesn't come, you still got Brad Keylori, you still got the Schaefer kid. There's guys that are big time talents that need the opportunity to play in the middle infield.
Tony said,
not Schaefer. I said Schaefer. I meant Blake Grimmer.
I think you might be muted, Reed.
There we go. Sorry.
You're good.
With the Rustin, I think Curley, third base looks like a great landing spot for him, regardless of who transfers in, what it looks like. I think it fits his skill set. He's kind of got a third baseman's bat too. I just feel like that's a good spot for him.
Yep.
Tony said he hopes we get a good starter and reliever out of the portal. Agreed. And a couple good hitters. Be nice to have a difference maker at designated hitter. I totally agree about the DH spot, and I sincerely hope that Robin Villeneuve turns into that person in the offseason. Sincerely, because that's what he was brought here for. Like that was his. He had one job. That was his job, and I guess the transition from JUCO to SEC was a little bit tougher than anticipated. But I'm hoping, having had a year under his belt now, seeing this, that everything changes for him next year, and he can be that DH hitter that he was brought here to be. Let's see. John said when Hunter slid, the catcher didn't even move. It was like a blur. I mean, he like did the matrix around him. Absolutely. Oh, Mr. Jones said the electric slide. That's another one we could do. There you go. That's well played. Well played. Bill said the catcher thought Hunter was going to zig, but he zagged. Nice. Carl said how he did that. It blows my mind. I agree, man. Absolutely. Mississippi Vol, welcome, buddy. He said, good evening to my favorite YouTubers. Hey, we appreciate that. And he said, wasn't sure if you'd be on before then, but I hope you and your families have a groovy and safe 4th of July. We appreciate that. Yeah, we won't be live Thursday night. Russ and I got to talk about that when we're going to go live next. Let's see.
Protect
Jeff
your
said,
fingers, everybody. Protect your fingers.
yeah, for real. Absolutely.
No lost digits, brothers and viewers. This holiday.
That is good advice. Jeff said,
coming out.
He said, I agree with you, Reed. I would have kept Kirby in. Open the 9th. I thought it was his time, but what do I know? I'm with you, Jeff. I'm with you. Let's see. Mr. Jones said, who's going to play left field replacing Dreiling? I think you're going to see Colby Backus in left field personally.
It's possible. Or a Portal.
I was going to say, this roster is going to look so much different than we think. It's so hard.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's so hard to look at Tennessee's basketball roster at the end of the year to now. Like, you're going to see baseball look, there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking going on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I just think it's going to look a lot different. It's really hard to project right now. And Tennessee's, like I said earlier, they've proven they know what they're doing when it comes to the transfer portal. Coming off a national championship with some transfers playing some key roles. And look, hot place to go play, right? Basketball is the same way. We saw it this year. It's going to be the same way, maybe even stronger for baseball. They're going to get who they want to get. And they're going to fill the holes that they want to fill. And it's a dynasty in the making right now, as long as Tony Vitello is here. It is. And as long as the fan support's here, as long as the current administration is here, Danny White, Don D. Plowman, I mean, it's a dynasty in the making. It is. They've been the best team in the country the last 4 seasons. They can be the best team in the country the next 4 seasons. And they're teed up to do it.
That's a fantastic point. Absolutely. Carl, we appreciate you joining us, buddy. As always, man, you're the man. We love you, buddy. Tony said, Villeneuve strikes out way too much. Can't hit a breaking ball. You're exactly right now. I'm hoping this offseason that changes.
I would just remind you, you just described Blake Burke last year.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Spending an offseason, which Villeneuve hasn't had the chance yet, having an offseason with Josh Elander to work on that, to change his approach at the plate, to learn how to read pitches and hunt fastballs. I think you'll see a different guy next year.
Well, Herb had a comment there. I starred it. We'll pick up there. Rustin, why don't you read your next question? I'm going to do a better job of making sure.
So
I don't want to keep Reed forever like we have done in the past.
A lot of people said 2022 was the most talented team ever assembled, but they couldn't get it done. So what was the difference in this team?
That's the $1 million question. I think that probably Tony Vitello and Elander and Frank Anderson are asking themselves right now, right? Or maybe they know the answer, but I do think you got a little hint of you got a little hint of how Tony would answer that when I think it may have been his post-game press conference after Monday night when he talked about this team just going out there and even the mound business and stuff. They're different than every team he's ever had. There was a calmness there, an unrattleable nature. They did not get shaken. They did not let the breaks of the game bother them by and large, and they always felt like they could come back. I think that was it. It was more mentality than anything. But I do think, there's something too. I know Tennessee certainly, when you look at draft boards and certainly look at their performance this year, you had some star bats, some once in a lifetime type bats on this lineup. But largely it was a team that everybody pulled their weight. 1-9 pitching staff. You didn't have an ace. You didn't have a traditional ace. You didn't have kind of a traditional shutdown rocket reliever like they've had. You didn't have some of these stars as a whole, as many stars as you did in 2022, to your point, Rustin. And I think ultimately that proved to benefit Tennessee. They just more like a Rick Barnes team. It kind of like they all sort of knew their role, pulled their weight, lifted each other up, pulled for each other. There wasn't this there wasn't at least we got this shutdown starter coming in. We know we can rely on, and then if he has a bad game, you're SOL. It was everybody was just kind of in it and battling, and I thought that was the difference, and maybe the thing that was why people doubted Tennessee going into the College World Series proved to be the biggest benefit is there weren't the huge stars, there weren't the huge egos that maybe you had in 2022, and saw this super easy team to root for, and that's it. I think it was more mentality and a better team, even though you can kind of look at baseball maybe too much as an individual sport. It ultimately is a team sport still, and this team was just different, and Tony said as much.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I love that answer. Some of the other comments that come through, that was my favorite question of the night, by the way. Herb made a really good point. Herb said, got to have Cannon Peebles step up next year. His switch hitting will be huge. Very patient at the plate, works pitchers count up. That would be enormous. Listen, they thought he was going to be the dude this year. Like, he was supposed to be the guy. And Cal Stark, to his credit, seized the opportunity. But that Cannon was supposed to be the guy this year, and he needs to be the guy next year for sure. Kyle, welcome, buddy. He said, I thought I might have had the final score right when I told you guys 11-3, but when we came up to bat, it was 6-3. Yeah, I almost had it. I predicted 6-4, and if it hadn't been for that last wild pitch, I would have had it, but oh well. Let's see. Reed, you'd have been proud of me, man. I said I almost nailed it to the T exactly what was going to happen the whole game. I said that we have to get a lead early before Auchenbeck comes in the game. I said he's going to enter the game in the 6th inning, the 7th at the latest, and then we're going to see multiple relievers from Tennessee after that, and we win 6-4. Well, I got every single bit of that right, even the inning that Auchenbeck came into the game. The only thing I didn't get right was the 6-4 thing because Aaron Combs threw one to the backstop.
Well, and that ended up being the winning formula is you get a lead, try to get him in the game early, make him throw a bunch of pitches and see a bunch and see if you can touch him up. And worked out. That's where Xander giving Tennessee some depth again was just huge.
Absolutely. Jeanette, welcome, Jeanette. She said, what happened to Villeneuve early season? He was knocking the cover off the ball. All of a sudden, we rarely saw him in the lineup. Was he hurt? I think teams figured out that he couldn't hit a breaking ball, and he just looked silly trying to chase them. And
I think it was a combination of both because a lot of it was he kept chasing curveballs that were out of the zone, but there was also he missed several weeks with injury, and I think he never could get fully back involved in taking a good approach at the plate. I think it got in his head.
Bobby said that Tony Vitello mentioned that Kirby had too much of an adrenaline rush, and he felt like during the bottom of the 8th he crashed a bit, and maybe that's why he took him out. I'm not sure. I hadn't heard that, but he knows better than me, right? Tony knows better than me.
He came into a pretty stressful spot.
Yeah, for real. Absolutely. Mr. Jones said, Vol Dynasty in all sports. Let's sweep championships of football and basketball too. Hey, sounds great. Sign me up. Let's do it. Mr. Jones said that 2022 team laid the foundation for what we're seeing now. I think that's a fair assessment. Let's see. He said they set the standard for Tennessee baseball. He said greatness is mandatory now. Kyle said Tony will field a contending championship team next year as well. I would agree with that because of exactly what Reed said earlier. Tennessee is a destination now as far as college baseball goes. You're going to be competing for a championship every time. And so I think Reed nailed it. Sean said, I think for Tony V, once in a lifetime players are now once in a season. Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right.
That's a good point.
Kyle said, building the right culture there, just like Heupel and Barnes, future is bright. Absolutely. Jeanette said, how are Drew Gilbert and Jordan Beck doing in the pros? So Jordan Beck is almost off the injured list now. I think he's still got a little bit, maybe a week or so left. He was doing great. He hit, I think, 1 or 2 home runs before he got hurt, and then he got injured. Drew Gilbert hasn't yet made it to the majors, but he's very much on his way. Very much
He's
on
a
his
triple
way. Zach said,
Fun.
Oh, go ahead,
fun.
Reed.
No, it's fun to have a rooting interest, right? And being able to kind of spot all these balls that you've pulled for pop up on these major league teams, and you're going to see more of that in the next 3 or 4 years. It's going to be, if you're a fan of all baseball now, you might want to save some cash for some MLB team jerseys and merch, because you're going to have a lot of balls on MLB lineups coming up.
Absolutely.
Chase Dolander's one step away from the pros. Jared Dickey is skyrocketing through the minors right now.
Trey Lipscomb already playing for the Nationals.
Yeah, he started most of the year. They're flying through the minors.
And all those dudes we just mentioned were on that 2022 team. Let's see. Zach said he had to get some Theraflu. He's back now. I hope you're feeling okay, Zach. I hope you're feeling good, buddy. We've not done it yet. We're about to do that now. Herb said, what about Texas A&M coming after Tony? So there were reports today that Texas A&M made a really hard push for Tony Vitello and threw a lot of money at him, and he turned it down. Whether those reports are true or not, I don't think anybody will ever know.
It was Kendall Rogers. I can almost guarantee you it was true. Kendall Rogers doesn't post anything unless he knows it for a fact.
He's definitely the authority as far as, nationwide college baseball reporting.
Yeah.
Let's see. So our next question, we appreciate Zach queuing us up here. So this is going to be a fun question right here. Reed actually mentioned this question on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, about a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks. And we immediately okay, we got to do this on our show. And so kudos to Reed for coming up with this question. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask Reed, and here, I'm going to switch places with Reed on the screen because he knows more than me. And so, Reed, we're going to ask you, who are your top 5?
A lot of pressure up here. I don't know if I like being up here.
Who are your top 5? And I'd like for you to rank them in order from 5 to 1. So we'll start at number 5, and we'll go up to number 1. And then Rustin will go next, and then I'll go after Rustin. Y'all can let us know in the comments who your top 5 players are as well. But we're going to start with Reed. So, Reed, give us starting with number 5, give us your top 5.
All right, starting with number 5. I was born in 1987, so my formative years growing up watching a lot of 90s Vols baseball, right? And R.A. Dickey is number 5 on my list for me. If you remember R.A. Dickey, shutdown pitcher. Tennessee won 3 SEC championships during his tenure here, largely because he was that kind of ace that you needed, especially back then in a different era of baseball when you had guys that went deeper into games, not as analytics driven. You're not matching up so much. He was the most dominant pitcher I remember seeing at Tennessee. Ended up having a really great MLB career, got hurt, learned to throw the knuckleball, extended his career. But even just looking at his Tennessee career, 3 SEC championships, unbelievable shutdown pitcher. They got the College World Series. So that's number 5 for me, the best pitcher that I saw with my 2 eyes at Tennessee in my time. Number 4 was a guy that you all know from the football field, probably, and I am too young to have seen him play at Tennessee. But one of the best athletes ever in the SEC. One of, I think, 3 people that have their jersey retired for the Vol baseball program. Condredge Holloway is number 4 for me. they didn't play as many games. If you look at stats, if you're a stat hunter and things like that, his numbers aren't going to jump off the page like everyone else because it's a totally different era. It's not like the majors where you've always played about the same amount of games and gotten the same number of at-bats and stuff. But Condridge is up there for me. Number 3, and it's hard doing the top 5, but it's especially hard doing the top 3. Number 3 for me is Chris Burke, not Blake Burke, as somebody got confused on Twitter. Chris Burke. No offense to Blake Burke. Chris Burke, the best hitter that I had seen kind of in that 2000s era for Tennessee ball baseball. Had a first-round draft pick, led him to it was an All-American, first-team All-American in 2001, hit 401, I think, his sophomore year, which is just ridiculous. He's been kind of the prototype, I guess, for like college baseball player who went on to have a solid MLB career, but he carried those teams were not very good there in kind of the turn of the millennium. And he finished his career as the all-time leader in at-bats, hits, runs scored, singles, doubles, triples, and bases. And that's number 3 on my list. So going on up to number 2 is a guy that we all know and love, Christian Moore. I had him at 3 before the College World Series. And I had to bump him up because he brought home a title. And he was absolutely clutch in doing it. Second player to hit for the cycle in the College World Series. Chris Burke was the first ball to hit for the cycle, by the way. Christian Moore, the second player to hit for it in the College World Series, leading off that championship game with a homer when he didn't look great over the weekend. There's just so much to like about that guy. I thought they obviously pitched around him a lot. They were a little bit scared of him. Maybe he pressed a little bit, but what a College World Series for that young man as well. What a season for that young man.
Absolutely.
That was Jalen Hyatt, Dalton Knecht, like Peyton, Joey Kent, Jamal Lewis. Throughout Allen Houston, that was that level of season for me, watching him play ball this year. And so I had him at 2, even though he doesn't have the kind of career cumulative stats that Chris Burke had, because he won a title. And he was the best hitter on the team.
The only national champion on that list.
That's right. And then number 1, he's the Todd Helton. If you're not going Todd Helton here, you probably didn't watch him play. It's that. So I was like first grade ish, I think, when he played at Tennessee. And I went over there a bunch. You could get tickets really cheap on the first base side, especially for a Tuesday game or a Friday game, and watched Todd play a bunch. And my whole family grew up in Fountain City. All went to Central High School, which is where Todd went. So we all sort of followed him his whole career. And what a privilege it was, because that's the best hitter I've ever seen. And if you look at his stats at Tennessee, and then what that carried on to the majors, he was one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball history. Flirted with 400 there. I remember checking the paper back in the day. The newspaper for you young folks. That's right. Because it's the only way you could get a box score. And we would check it basically just to see how many hits Todd had last night and what his average was for the season, because we were watching his chase to 400. And he was flirting with it up through like July, So, yeah, awesome to see him get inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. His numbers retired for Tennessee. He's in the College Baseball and the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. He led them to the College World Series in, I believe, 1995. But also was an incredible closer. So not only did he play first base, but he was a shutdown pitcher, a shutdown closer for Tennessee, and a quarterback on the football team. But I think he was the best batter in that lineup and he was also a darn good pitcher. And so I think he had to be number one for me. And guys, I was obviously sad when he retired. But it's super cool to see him at the parade on Tuesday, celebrating the championship and supporting that program that really he did help put on the map there in the 90s and carried on the name for Vol baseball for a very long and historic Hall of Fame MLB career. So number one for me, Todd Helton, my favorite, also my favorite Vol. A lot of nostalgia there, but man, Christian Moore gave him a run for his money on my list.
Totally understand that. Well, Rustin, who are your top 5 Vol baseball players?
I went a completely different.
That's a solid list Reed just gave there.
I went a completely different direction.
I like this.
You know,
we did not confer on this beforehand, guys.
No. So my view of what makes someone a great player is how far they get toward the pinnacle. And the pinnacle is not playing at Tennessee. The pinnacle is Major League Baseball. So number 5 for me was Christian Moore. And the only reason is really 2 things. He's only the 3rd player ever to hit for the Triple Crown in the SEC. And I think he projects to be an insanely talented professional. I think he's going to be in Major League Baseball for a very, very long time.
I know he's got the work ethic for it.
Yeah.
I want him on my team, right?
Yeah.
If you're a Major League Baseball fan, you want him on your team.
Yep. Number 4 is R.A. Dickey. Again, this is where I transition into pro baseball. R.A. Dickey was in the pros for 15 years, had a very successful career, reinvented himself, became the knuckleballer into his career, and just really found ways to stick in Major League Baseball and be a productive member of his organization. Number 3 is one that I bet neither of you are going to say, and that was Phil Garner. Phil played pro baseball for 16 years, mostly with the Brewers. Fun fact about Phil, he had lifetime 225 stolen bases, the most stolen bases ever by a Vol in professional baseball. Number 2 is Rick Honeycutt.
Okay.
Rick Honeycutt, this just still boggles my mind. Rick Honeycutt was in professional baseball for 21 years. Not playing and coaching, just playing. Okay? I don't know I bet if you made a list of how many players lasted over 20 years in pro baseball, you may not need all your fingers. I mean, that's just obscene.
Going back to 4th of July, like Reed was talking about earlier.
Yeah. Only need 9.
Right. For any human being to spend 21 years in professional baseball is just unbelievable. And then after that, to be an extremely qualified and successful pitching coach, then head coach. The man is a major league lifer and a huge representative of the University of Tennessee. Number 1, this was an easy one. It's got to be Todd Helton, because there is only one person in the history of the University of Tennessee to be inducted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. It happens in 3 weeks, and it's Mr. Todd Helton. He will be the only Vol in Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Just a honorable mention, just for fun. Who has the most pitching wins ever in professional baseball history? What former Vol?
Oh.
You got me.
You're not going to get it. His name is Tommy Bridges. He was in the pros for 16 years, all 16 years playing professional baseball for the Tigers, not in the minors, 16 years in pro baseball in the 1930s and 40s. All 16 years with the Tigers, he won 194 games.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, Rick Honeycutt in 21 years won 109 games. So Tommy Bridges was pretty stinking dominant. Former Vol from Gordonsville, Tennessee.
That's a deep cut.
I like Rustin going historian on me over here. I'm liking this. We need a Rustin reads us history segment. I will subscribe to that.
Get like a little theme music intro for it, and now it's time.
We just need 5 minutes of Rustin reads us history.
Yep. Hey, I just gave you all like 4 trivia questions that you can use for the rest of this week.
There you go.
Forever, actually.
Yeah.
So my top 5 is actually strikingly similar to Reed's, except for one, and that's because when Rustin sent me his to put on here, I was like, "Oh, that's actually a really good choice." So I stole one of his.
Brothers.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, it was really similar. Other than that, it was very similar to Reed's. Number 5 for me is R.A. Dickey as well. And what so I think this is important that we got to, how do you rank this? That's the real crux of this. Like we've already seen Reed take one approach, which I took a very similar approach to Reed. You see Rustin take another approach, and both of them are really good approaches. I think there's 2 things that impact how you rank the best Vol baseball players of all time. And honestly, a big one that is now going to impact these rankings forever is the transfer portal. What if somebody transfers in and they're only here for 1 year? That's it. And like Billy Amick or somebody like that. I mean, obviously he's not going to be on this list. But let's say
in basketball. Yeah, right.
Thank you. Yes.
Right.
Perfect example. And so the transfer portal really impacts this because all of a sudden it can't just be what they did as a Vol only. That can't be the only criteria because that sample size could be very, very small. So now we got to consider what they did before they were here and what they do after they're here. And I think, all of us, spoiler alert, my number 1 is Todd Helton too. I mean, because like Rustin said, there's only one dude that has made it to the Major League Hall of Fame. Like there's just one. And so that has to count for something, right? I mean, like that has to matter. One of only 2 guys from the SEC ever to get to the Hall of Fame, which is mind-boggling. And he's currently sitting right over my left shoulder, right there in that little picture frame. Over there's the Football Time in Tennessee magazine from a couple years ago. We'll talk about that in a minute too. But so, how you rank this, it has to be somewhat of a combination of what they did as a Vol, but also what they did when they were not a Vol, whether that was prior to coming here or after they left, and what they did in Major League. All of that combined, this is a list I came up with. R.A. Dickey at number 5 because, like Reed mentioned, like Rustin mentioned, 1995 College World Series and SEC champions. He was the ace on that staff. 15-year career. I love how Rustin and Reed both mentioned how he adapted his game as a pro to make himself more of an asset for longer. I got to give him some props. Number 4, this is the one I stole from Rustin, was Phil Garner. And I mean, all-century team at Tennessee, named to the all-century team. He was the 1969 home run champion in the country. Led the country in home runs that year. 2-time All-SEC performer, All-American in 1970. 18-year Major League career. 3-time All-Star. And was a manager in Major League Baseball as well. So solid number 4 there. Number 3, Chris Burke. I agree with Reed on that one. Tennessee Athletics Hall of Fame member right there. First, now this is another big deal. His junior season, he was first team All-American and National Player of the Year finalist. There's only one other dude on this list that can say that. And so like that's a big deal. National Player of the Year finalist, 10th overall draft pick coming out of Tennessee, and all the other things that Reed mentioned as well. Number 2 for me was also Christian Moore, because statistically speaking, we just witnessed a Dalton Knecht-esque type season from him. I mean, the guy, he leads the SEC in Triple Crown. He sets the single season home run record for the university and the career home run record for the university in the same season. First team All-American by D1 Baseball. They actually made up for everybody else's mistake of not including him. Somehow he's not a finalist for National Player of the Year. Somehow, I don't know how, but somehow he wasn't. But notice he has a distinction that no one else has on this list: national champion. He was the best player on the best team in the history of Tennessee baseball. That's got to mean something. And so he brought home the title. And then number 1, it has to be Todd Helton. It has to be. Like we said, there's only one thing. Actually, there are 2 things you could say. Actually, there are 3 things you could say that would all you have to say to allow this guy to be number 1 on the list. One of them is Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. The only guy on the list to have that distinction. That's good enough in and of itself. Another one is 1995 National Player of the Year.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good. Only guy on the list to have that distinction. And so you could just say that, and that would be enough. The other thing is 3-time All-American. You could just say that, and that would be enough. And so, I mean, like there's no denying he's got the crown as numero uno in Vol baseball history. And I loved this question, and it was so difficult trying to come up with people, because obviously there's recency bias. Like for example, right now, if you're talking about Major League Baseball, Garrett Crochet is tearing it up in Major League Baseball right now. He's arguably one of the most dominant pitchers in the game right now. How do you not include him? But when you think about as a Vol and career as a whole, Conrich Holloway was probably my number 6 on the. So I mean, like he was just outside. Blake Burt. I mean, I know it's recent, but I mean, he was the home run champion for the university for a brief minute. I mean, like the guy had a tremendous first team All-American, tremendous career. So there's plenty of. Apparently, Tommy not heard his name, so kudos to Rustin for coming up with that one.
That was I'm telling you, history. We need our Rustin history segment.
He was also part of that. He was also drafted for the war. So in the middle of that, he had to take a year off to go fight in the war, then came back and kept pitching.
Which one? What, World War II or Vietnam? What was it?
It was in the 30s and 40s.
Oh, way before. So World War One?
Two. World War II.
2?
Would have been 2.
2.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool.
World
War. I just really embarrassed myself just by saying World War One.
Okay.
It happens to all of us. The one of the things I loved about Todd's junior year, when you're talking about all these crazy stats, he led the SEC in home runs and ERA, which is nuts.
That is nuts. Who does that?
Yeah. Home run leader, ERA leader, Todd Helton. Also led the SEC in RBIs, runs, doubles, hits, walks, slugging percentage, and on base percentage. But 1.66 ERA and hit 20 dingers. So ridiculous. Fortunate, guys. We're fortunate to have seen some great baseball players come through here. And really, you're saying recency bias, but the reality is the ball baseball program is as good as it's ever been, obviously. They just brought home their first national championship, went to the College World Series 3 out of 4 years. So you can say recency bias, and I hear that, but the reality is these are some of the best players that have ever played here.
Yeah.
Period.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And I think it's important to note as well, because I just thought about this here as we were doing this. All three of us had R.A. Dickey and Todd Helton on our top five. And both of those guys played on that 1995 College World Series team.
Yep.
So that was a special group.
Yeah, they came in third that year. So third place finish.
Even that team that had two of the, according to all three of us, two of the top five players in the history of the game, even they couldn't bring home that national championship. So that just speaks even more to what this team was able to accomplish this year. It's incredible. To win a national title is so difficult.
Well, and aside from the recency biases of all the guys we've just mentioned, listen to all the ones we didn't mention. Jan Gomes, Mike DeFelice, Chase Headley, Joe Randa, Rich DeLucia, Luke Hochaver, Augie Ojeda, Greg McMichael, Zach Godley, Bubba Trammell, Nick Senzel, JP Arencibia, Julio Bourbon. I mean,
absolutely,
it is crazy the amount of talent that went through pro baseball that came through the University of Tennessee.
Absolutely.
Bubba Trammell was one of those that was another kind of that era we're talking about. I've loved following his pro career, long career, played with the Rays for a long time, had a bunch of his baseball cards and stuff. It's fun following Tennessee baseball players. And that's where, if you're a Vol fan now, like I was saying earlier, you're getting into the golden age of you're going to have a lot of guys to follow coming up.
Yep.
It's going to be a blast.
Absolutely. I'm going to hit some of the highlights in the comments before we do our last question. Zach said his top five, number 5 would be Helton. For number 4, Drew Gilbert. 3, R.A. Dickey. 2, Blake Burke. And number 1, Christian Moore. Drew Gilbert, thanks you, Zach. Let's see. Jeanette said, wasn't Connors Holloway also a quarterback? He sure was. You're exactly right. He sure was. Let's see. Kyle said Chris Burke, Todd Helton, R.A. Dickey, Drew Gilbert, and Christian Moore. No particular order. Honorable mention, Drew Beam. That was another thing. Chase Dolander. I legit thought about including him because he was a dominant pitcher for Tennessee for some very important seasons in the history of the program. There's a lot of guys that are very, very good. Mr. Jones said Dylan Dreiling has to be top 5 Mr. Clutch. Now, he did make a name for himself. I'll give you that. As far as being Mr. Clutch, I think anybody would say who's the most clutch hitter in the history of Tennessee baseball. After this year, it's hard not to say Dylan Dreiling.
We can have a Dreiling drive on UT's campus.
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
Amen. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. I apologize to all the people. I'm trying to make sure I hit the high notes here. Let's see. Kyle said, wow, sorry, I'm 55 and I forgot about Rick Honeycutt. So I will drop Drew Gilbert. LOL. Let's see. Some folks were talking about and Zach said, and on the other shelf is the hat Evan never wears. That's true. I don't wear it anymore because it looks too good back there in that corner. It's perfect for back there. Let's see. Big Ball Daddy said, how many home runs did Christian Moore end up with this year?
34.
34. There you go.
Ridiculous.
Absolutely.
That's ridiculous.
Let's see.
I will say that's maybe the thing that I've never felt better about having somebody at the plate than as clutch as Dreiling was and as good as Todd was. This year, it was like Knecht having the ball in his hands. It was, hey, Christian Moore's up. I'm feeling pretty good about our chances here.
Absolutely.
And if we can just get back to him batting, I think we're in a good spot.
Yep.
Timothy said 2022 had better players, but they were not the best team. 2024 was the best team. I think that's a great point. Great point. Big Orange said, I'm going to miss Dreiling. He was my hero this year. Let's see. So before we ask our last question, I wanted to mention this. All three of us just mentioned that Todd Helton was number 1 on our list of best of all baseball players ever. So, in the most recent edition of Football Time in Tennessee magazine, which you can get right now, actually, we got this one at Publix, I believe, is where we got this. And I can't remember for sure. It was either there or Food City. I can't remember. But I saw it at Publix. I know that for sure. Oh, I got this at Barnes and Noble. That's where I got this. We were in Barnes and Noble. That's where I got it. There is a feature on Todd Helton in this edition of Football Time in Tennessee magazine. And it's fantastic. I mean, Reed, y'all do such a great job with this. Actually, I didn't even know this before we started, but I was commenting on every year there are write-ups about all the coaching, the whole coaching staff, their backgrounds, everything like that. And I should have looked closer because right here it says by Reed Carringer, and I didn't even notice that. I was just reading it, looking through and stuff. And I told Reed before we started, I was like, I love the write-ups y'all do on the coaching staff. It's fantastic. And he said, well, thank you. I did that. And I was like, well, how about that? I didn't even know. I was giving him a compliment there. And sure enough, right up here, it says by Reed Carringer.
Checks in the mail, Evan. Checks in the mail.
And then one other thing I love, I mean, you got in-depth stuff about players, about the other teams on their schedule. But I told Reed I love this. When they do their projected depth chart, they've got magnetic football dudes as the people on the page. I remember Rustin had a magnetic football game when we were kids, and man, we sit there and watch that thing go all over the place for hours. It was like the best thing ever.
That was like the pinnacle of living, Ben.
Yep, absolutely.
Like if you had that, you'd made it.
I'm convinced, unless you've thoroughly schemed out how to make an electric football team score a touchdown, you can't really call an offense.
That's where Heupel got it from.
Yeah, there you go. No huddle. He's like lining them up as fast as he can. Well, we got one last question for Reed because this past Wednesday night was a fun night for Reed. Rustin, why don't you ask that last one?
Evan gave me the question because he knows how much I love the NBA. But I do think at number 17, the Lakers got an absolute steal. Reed, how did it feel watching Dalton Knecht go to your favorite team?
Guys, I was like, all right, I'm going to watch the draft because Knecht was so, not only was he so dynamic this year for Tennessee and led the best Tennessee team in the history of Tennessee basketball, like we've talked about before, he was such an easy kid to root for. Just like the guy that you want to cheer for. He was like a prototype basketball player person, like the dream, and I think Barnes would tell you that too. And so I thought, all right, I got stuff to do, but I'm going to settle down and watch the draft and try to not work for a little bit. And it ended up being a longer commitment than I thought because he kept sliding down. I thought maybe he'd go 6 to Charlotte, I believe, 9 to the Grizzlies. And I did not, in my wildest dreams, I've been a Lakers fan forever. My dad was a big fan of the Showtime Lakers. So as I was a kid, again, growing up, early 90s, this was pre-Kobe, pre-Shaq. Their best player was Nick Van Exel and Vlade Divac. Yeah, they were not a good team. And basketball was probably my best sport growing up. So you can say bandwagon all you want. They were terrible.
I did not expect to get a Vlade Divac mention tonight.
I was hoping we'd have a conversation about Nick Van Exel. I mean, in my opinion, he's the best Laker of all time.
Okay. Whoa. Okay.
Nick the Quick.
So they were not a good team. And so anyway, I've been a Lakers fan forever. And there's been good and bad in there, obviously. And I never in my wildest dreams on draft night thought Dalton Knecht would end up with the Lakers. And then once he got to like 14, Lakers had the 17th pick. I thought, all right, there's a chance. But I thought surely Philly's going to take it.
So you're telling me there's a chance.
Everyone in Philly, all the Philly Twitter was like, we're taking Knecht. We're so excited. And then they didn't take him. And I thought, this is it. We're going to get him. I was like Monday night baseball nervous for an NBA draft, which has never happened in my life. Because it was a dream. And sure enough, they picked him, jumped up, high-fived my wife up, and I'm just like, I'm still stoked. I'm so excited to have him in LA. And if you're a Tennessee fan and you're new to the NBA or you don't like the NBA, but you like Dalton Knecht, you're going to get to see him play a lot because they're going to be on TV a lot this year. So that's a win for everybody. You're going to get to see more Dalton Knecht than you would otherwise.
And what a perfect number choice. I mean, just perfect. Like you just said it too. Connect 4, absolutely. I mean, that's perfect. And Rustin mentioned this on our show Thursday night. Essentially, JJ Redick just drafted a more athletic version of himself. That's essentially what he just did.
Yep.
And so, if you're a Dalton Knecht fan, which I think probably everybody watching this is, we got 332 people watching. 334 just jumped up. We got 286 on X and 48 on YouTube. Thank you all so much for joining us. I think all 334 of us, 337 if you include the 3 of us, are Dalton Knecht fans. And the situation that he's walking into, you got to be excited for him. I mean, like he's walking into a really good situation.
He doesn't hardly have to move. I mean, Austin Reeves is going to attack from the top. LeBron's going to be on the opposite wing. Anthony Davis is inside. He can literally just stand there and catch and shoot.
It's a dream scenario for him and for the Lakers, honestly. It's a match. So I was not only happy selfishly for myself because I want to see him on my team, which I was not on my radar at all. I'm happy for him and I'm happy for the Lakers because I think I watched them a ton last year. They were 24th in the NBA and made threes. They just got one of the best shooters in the draft who I watched them, like you're talking about, Rustin, kick out to open guys, then just break, dink, dink. That's not going to happen with Knecht. We've seen that. And also, I do think he gives you some options to take some scoring load off of a geriatric LeBron, which is something that they need as well. Somebody to take the pressure off him a little bit for at least some stretches of the game. Hey, Knecht, go ISO 5 possessions in a row. You're going to score a couple,
Yep.
So in addition to the spot-up shooting, I think just his ability still to get his own shot and get to his spot, which we saw this year, will translate at the next level. I'm excited. Match made in heaven for both teams, and that Lakers team, just not this year, but the year before, played in the Western Conference Finals against eventual champion Denver Nuggets. So they're close. If they can add a piece or two, you could see Knecht in the playoffs next year, which that'd be awesome.
Yep.
So earlier, like he asked about if we saw the orange peel in the Texas A&M dugout. So she sent us a screenshot of it.
Oh my gosh.
So either a Tennessee fan threw it at their dugout or one of them was just having a snack, one of the two.
The final in the top corner there, final score, orange peel. That's great.
That's pretty good. Well played, Likey. Well played. That's pretty awesome. The comments coming in about we got one here. Let's see. Till Valhalla said Knecht's suit was fire. It was. I agree.
The best part of it didn't get shown on television. When he showed the insides on television, you got to see the 2 inserts, but the inside back was his jersey.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Did you see his? I retweeted it earlier, but his kind of the Lakers sent it out talking about getting drafted, and if you watch that, he's talking about the best part of it was he got to get up and hug his mom and thank his parents for sitting in the parking lot and rebounding for him, and the best part was having Coach Barnes and Tennessee assistant Rod Clark there, and all the impact they made on his game, and just. Again, such a humble kid and someone who seems to have such a great head on his shoulders, who's got his priorities in order, and is kind of seems like he's both wise and driven beyond his years.
Absolutely.
Come on, Kyle.
Let's see. Mr. Jones said the Grizzlies should have drafted him. Yeah, they did not make some friends in the state of Tennessee when they picked Zach Edey over Dalton.
There were so many teams that should have drafted him. I mean, some of these NBA executives, I'm just shocked they can keep their jobs. I mean, they're just like, yeah, there's this random dude in France that we think might be pretty good in 4 years. Let's waste the 5 pick on him. I mean, just Unbelievable.
Average 2.2 points a game. Let's take him. Yeah, and I don't, especially in this culture, even in the NBA, where you're not talking about like you draft Michael Jordan and he stays with the Bulls or whatever. Like these guys are jumping teams every 2 or 3 years. So give me someone who can score right now, and I don't care about the future. Like let's score right now. That's what matters.
Right
now.
Absolutely. This may be my favorite comment of the whole night. Mr. Jones said that orange peel in that photo was the one that drove Milton through at the Orange Bowl. It just landed in Omaha.
It caught fire, re-entering their atmosphere, and then
That's great. Well, we had a couple good questions, but it's already 10:22, so I will end with this one. We have an Arkansas fan joining us. I'm not going to end with an Arkansas fan. Well, we'll ask one more after this. We're so glad you're with us, Pigpen. That is awesome. Hey, anybody's welcome at the Vol Bros. He said, if Dave Van Horn retires, do y'all see Tony Vitello going to Arkansas? Personally, I mean, I think, we're all going to say no, but it's not because, at least I'm trying not to have orange colored glasses on it. Somebody else mentioned, how long do you think it is until a major Matt Adams, Milk Matt? He said, how long until an MLB team comes after him? I don't think Tony translates to Major League Baseball as well as he does to college baseball. But to answer Pigpen's question, which, I mean, that's a legit question. That's a fair question. Does Tony obviously have an affinity for his time at Arkansas? I'm sure he does. However, he has literally been handed the keys to the program at Tennessee, and I mean they're backing financially everything he's asked for. He wanted a new stadium, he got it. He can name his price in a contract right now, and they'll give it to him. I mean, he has people. He has turned this into a destination program in the country. There's just no reason for him to leave. Everything he could want, he's been given, and he has available to him now. And so I'm trying not to have orange colored glasses on when I answer that. I think it's a very good question. I just don't think that I just don't think he leaves until he wants to, whenever that might be, because I mean, he's got a really great setup right now. Really great.
Right. I guess maybe to piggyback on that there, Evan, for Pigpen, I think the way that would happen for me would depend on the timing. Because right now, what's he have to gain going anywhere else? He's got the top team in the country. They've been the top team in the country over the last 4 years, getting a new stadium, getting everything he wants, just won a championship, super supportive administration. If David Van Horn retires this year, next year after that, I don't think so. If it's 5 or 10 years down the line, that looks different. Because I think what Tennessee has right now that they haven't had in a long time is a competent and supportive administration that understands kind of the evolving landscape of college athletics. So
Amen.
If that were to change, if you get a change at president, at chancellor, at AD, and we get back to the administration Tennessee had for the previous decade, then I could absolutely see Tony jumping ship and doing something else. But right now, Tennessee's in a great spot, just from an administration standpoint and a support standpoint. So to me, that would have to change for him to go somewhere else. And so I don't think that's changing in the next 3-4 years. Could it 5-10? Then maybe I can see that happening.
It's a great point.
I think people get hung up on Tony's relationship with Dave Van Horn. He respects the man. He doesn't want to be the man. Like, there's lots of people that Tony talks about Frank Anderson the same way he does Dave Van Horn. And people get hung up on that. And the reality is he was at Missouri for 7 years. He was at TCU for 3. He was at Arkansas for 4. And now he's going on season 8 at Tennessee. So after this upcoming year, he will have been at Tennessee twice as long as he was at Arkansas. And as you all just said, he's got the keys to the kingdom. He has no reason to go anywhere. And
Right.
to the Major League Baseball question, Tony does not translate well to Major League Baseball. No, he would never do that. That's not his style. That's not he wants nothing to do with that.
Mr. Jones said Tony Vitello, nice. HT14 said I could make a whole video or edit about Rustin's mic drops. And Till Valhalla said I can't believe nobody has gone after Elander yet.
Yeah,
That we know of.
They have, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would almost bet you're going to have a real big contract extension and raise for him pretty soon.
Yeah.
Last year it happened on July 13th, so I'd say it's coming soon.
And we'll end the evening with this comment because it cracked me up. Green Wave said, next time China flies a spy balloon, we just need to give Joe Milton a few oranges. Problem solved.
You can throw some BP to Blake Burke or Christian Moore. Also.
There you go.
Toss one up to him.
There you go. Well, to the 351 people we have with us right now, we appreciate you so much. 292 on X, 59 on YouTube. We thank you all so much for joining us. And Reed, as always, man, it is a treat for us to have you with us. Thank you so much.
No, thanks, guys. Enjoyed it as always. Nice to talk a little national champion baseball team.
Hey, that's nice to say, isn't it? It's still because we pumped up, man. And hey, everybody go check out this year's Football Time in Tennessee magazine. Mina, like you said, we got our yearly Football Time in Tennessee from Food City. It is and always has been a ritual. I love that. That is fantastic.
Thank you.
And there are so many people who it's a family tradition. I love that. Mr. Jones said Tennessee is home sweet home to Tony. Absolutely. Green Wave said champions. That's good to say, isn't it? It's nice. Herb, we appreciate you, buddy. He said, appreciate it, guys. You know, like I said, love the Vol Bros. Hey, we appreciate you so much. And Reed, once again, buddy, you're the man. And we so value your time. I actually tried. I was going to try to keep it to an hour tonight, and I apologize. I did not succeed. But this was too fun, man.
Well, I did a lot of talking, so I think you can throw some stones my way.
Hey, we appreciate you so much. We hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Be checking our Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Be checking to see when we go live again because it won't be Thursday night because it's 4th of July. So we'll see. Maybe we'll do something before Sunday. I'll be on the road Sunday, so we'll see what's going on. But we'll let you know. So I hope everybody has a great evening. And for the last time, this is kind of bittersweet, fellas. For the last time, because it's football season now, let's be honest. So for the last time in 2024, we're going to play the baseball outro for the Vol Bros. And next time we're live, it's going to be the football one. So we're turning the page, and we're literally turning the pages in Football Time in Tennessee magazine. So everybody make sure you go get that for sure. We hope everybody has a great evening, and go Vols.